There's always something with this Wi-Fi.
Always something going on. Got to make it interesting.
Got to build suspense and anticipation.
Oh, there's my mug. I've been looking for weeks for that thing right there. Shoot.
Damn.
I figured eventually you would see it.
Yeah. So you didn't want to tell me?
No, it's not that I didn't want to tell you.
Just thought I'd see it.
Because I would see it every day, and I'm just like, oh, that's probably Nsima's. Like, he's here anyway. Like he'll figure it out.
You thought I'd actually be an intelligent human being and look at it. But
Hey, while I was away, you guys did a podcast without me, I heard.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, you were here. You were
That's
standing
right.
right there. At least I
In
thought he was.
Yeah, you were just really quiet.
Probably wasn't feeling so good.
Yeah. Somebody said it was
Explosive diarrhea. Chalk it up to that.
not bad.
Let's not talk
Not
about
bad.
diarrhea. You don't need any more of that.
What do you mean anymore?
Something happened.
Yeah, man. It was bad. So I went to the dry sauna last night, and standing at the locker, changing. You know, I had
Not
my-
so dry anymore, apparently.
not so dry anymore. And it's, you know what, it's been a long time since this has happened to me. It hasn't happened in a few months. So I was sitting in front of there, and I was like, okay, time to fart real quick, and I did, but I didn't. Because then some poop came drooping down my leg, and it just slid down my thigh ever so slowly. So then I had to turn and shimmy to the bathroom, clenching my butt cheeks together, trying to keep my hamstring up so like it didn't go all the way down to my calf. I get to the stall, I had to clean my shorts off, played a video by The Rock while it was going on just for some entertainment. And then I hoped that when I got into the sauna, the heat wouldn't make the poop on the shorts smell too bad.
Was it working?
I don't know.
Not sure.
I
Was there anybody else in there?
There are other people in there, but like 2 people left about 10 minutes in. So I don't know if I did a great job.
They're like, wow, this guy really smells like shit.
If you want to
Does
clear
that-
out the room,
Does that happen to girls?
Yes.
Do girls,
like pooping
do
or
girls shit themselves?
I think they do more than they like to admit.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we're gross.
I think we're more willing to risk it than they are.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Maybe they go to the bathroom in groups because maybe they're in there farting the whole time. Rather than just
That
like
makes
letting
more
her rip
sense.
wherever,
Yeah.
you know, it's safer bet, smarter on their part. Maybe they're in there pulling each other's fingers for all we know.
I always wonder, that's always been a thing, girls going to the restroom together. It's like, I can't go to the restroom with like you and like, hey, let's go to the bathroom real quick, Mark. Can't do, well, we can, but we can't. But women can do that all the time.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is that such a trend?
once we moved to this location and we have the dual stalls or whatever,
Uh-huh.
I remember sitting down to go take a dump and then Smokey being like, "Oh heck yeah, what's up, man?" And we had just like open conversation while we're both taking a dump. And I remember like I was like really like not comfortable with that at first, but then eventually you just get used to it.
Now
But
you
then-
guys hold hands while you're on the toilet.
Yeah. And then not too long ago, I'm in there. I'm leaving the bathroom. Some funny guy named Nsima just opens the door as he's on the toilet, and I'm trying my hardest to ignore him. Like, hopefully he'll close it and just be like, "Oh, that was a stupid like attempt at a joke." And you're like, "Andrew, no, look at me." I was like, and he's just there on the toilet using the Squatty Potty and everything.
That's one thing. We got to get Chris Griffin more comfortable with that, because I always, whenever I go to the restroom,
He doesn't
in there,
use the Squatty Potty?
No, not the Squatty Potty. He doesn't like having conversation on the toilet.
Oh.
Like I was talking to him when I was taking one.
Yeah.
He was like,
It's very
"Nsima,"
private.
Yeah, he's like, "Stop talking to me because I can't poop when you talk. I can't poop when someone's talking to me."
Poop
So,
shy.
yeah, we got to get him a little bit more comfortable with that.
Yeah, I don't really like the Squatty Potty though.
I love it.
I can't get into position.
Like you can't get your legs up on?
Yeah, like, and if I'm wearing pants, like the pants are like they touch the toilet bowl, and I don't like it.
We need to make something that like you sit down and then you push a button and then it pushes your feet up.
That'd be sick. Yeah.
That would be a great
And you
idea.
can like you can have it like push them up like whatever angle you want.
And it could be super loud so everyone knows.
And then maybe the toilet seat like spreads your butt cheeks apart for you too a little bit.
Now we're on to something.
it really just comes flying out of there, just blast it on
It
out.
just has a picture of a butterfly. It's gonna do like when you butterfly cut meat, It's gonna,
Yeah, if there was anybody listening, they're not. They're like, yeah, nice try, guys. I'm not listening to this.
sucks to be them.
I know. We were talking a little bit about sleep, and we are talking about trying to get consistent with the sleep, and preparing for this meet. The sleep is part of it, the food's part of it. Everything becomes part of the equation, and I think what we're seeing nowadays is a lot of people work for themselves, and so kind of like, what's it matter if you wake up at 7 or 7:30, or if you go to bed at 11 or 11:30? You don't. Some people might have a job where they got to be there at 6 a.m. every day, and they might even have a physical job. Maybe they have a job where, like, if they're not physically prepared and physically alert, maybe somebody could get hurt. Maybe they could get hurt, or maybe they could hurt somebody else if they have a construction job. And so for those kind of people, it's like, well, shit, they better get to bed at the right time every night so they can wake up and perform every day. But for a lot of other people, a lot of us in the fitness industry, we have these cakewalk jobs over here, and we don't have that same like responsibility of like being a certain place at a certain time. We have the luxury of making money basically through the internet and through online clients and through people purchasing products, and so it kind of leaves you to think like, well, what's the difference on kind of like when I wake up? And I had that kind of attitude for a while when I first started this company. But kind of more recently, I've kind of took the mindset of like, you know what, fuck that. Everything matters. Everything makes a difference. And so, and before it was like, it started getting harder and harder to get my workouts in as the group was here. Not necessarily because of the group, just because there's a lot of new people in here all the time. And if somebody comes from Sweden, I don't want to be like worried about doing a superset of curls. I want to spend some time with those people. I want to talk to them. I want to see what they're all about. I want to see why they spent their vacation coming to Super Training Gym, and I also want to have fun with the team. And so, like, if I work out with the team, I can't always get the same style of workout. Every once in a while I can. It depends on the day and stuff like that. The weekend is certainly when we have a lot of guests in here. But anyway, I just decided, you know what? Like, it's great for me to work out early. I've been kind of leaning into that resistance, and I've been trying to get to bed at the same time. I have an alarm that goes off at 7 p.m. every night, and that alarm doesn't mean that I have to be in bed. It's just kind of a signal of like, all right, well, maybe you can finish up your last 10-minute walk of the day, or see what the kids are up to, take a shower, whatever prep I need to do to kind of get my butt in bed, and then I try to wake up a similar time almost every single day. And if I don't wake up the same time each and every day, then it's still scheduled like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I usually wake up around 3:30 or 4 o'clock. And then on Wednesdays when I sleep in a little bit, and the weekends I sleep in a little bit. And by a little bit, it's like an extra 2 hours or something, which makes a huge difference. So I might pick up a little extra sleep on those days. But do you have trouble with like kind of getting like on a schedule with your sleep?
Yeah. For me, it's like I usually get enough sleep, but it's that rhythm aspect of things of going to sleep at the same time every single night. For some reason I've found that like I do work during the day, and I mean I kind of have to, but at the same time it's like when night comes around and when like late night comes around, like maybe 8, 9, 10, it's like my mind starts feeling like so much better, and it's like I feel like I need to start getting some other things done at that time, and I'm so much sharper at night. So I end up actually getting a little bit of work done at night, or maybe during the day if I just can't focus for some reason, I'll wait till late at night, like 10 or 11, to get those last bits of work done. And I don't know why it is that I feel like I think better then, but then I'll end up being up a little bit later at maybe 11:30, 12, 12:30, and then I'll go to sleep. And then I'll still make sure I get all my hours, but I'll end up waking up later in the day. But the thing is, it's like I like waking up early, but then I like working at night. So it's having to consolidate those two, and I'm figuring that out. But I really do want to get a better rhythm going, like going to sleep at the same time or close to the same time every night, because I know it's going to be so beneficial.
You ever have an opportunity to get a nap?
It's the days I get naps are days that, like, let's say I got like 5 hours or a really short amount of sleep. I'll find some time to get like 30 or 45 minutes in during the day.
That seems to work really well. But yeah, it's hard to like make time for it, and like I don't know. A lot of times you're like, I'm just going to keep powering through the day. Screw it.
Yeah.
Unless you're really dead, then maybe you might automatically fall asleep somewhere.
Yeah, it's only if I get a lack of sleep, and also on days that I know I'm gonna have like a lot of physical activity, like I got to do 2 a day or something. I'll make sure to drive one in just because of like all of the different activity that's going to be going on.
And people see me talking about waking up at 3 or 4 and these different times, and I'm never trying to be like a tough guy with that. It's not. You still have to get sleep.
Your Instagram comments were gold on that one. I don't know if people saw that post.
Oh, every once in a while I just smash people because I'm at a point now where I literally don't care. Like when somebody, not that I don't care what people think. I do care what people think. That's why I comment back in the first place. But what I mean is I don't care like what you think about it, because I think a lot of times people are trying to read into it too much or look at it the wrong way. I'm not promoting that you should walk around in a sleep-deprived state. I'm a fitness professional. I've been in this game for a long time, and I know that you need proper sleep. You need a certain amount of sleep. I think for each person, there's a little wiggle room with that. Some people really love to sleep 8-9 hours every night, and other people seem to perform just fine and be really successful and end up getting ahead with 6 and 7 hours of sleep. It really just depends on the person. But if you're not getting somewhere between 6 to 8 hours of sleep, then you're really making a big mistake. And so I never want to try to say like, you have to wake up at these times. But to me, most people, if they were to wake up a little earlier than they're used to, they can probably get ahead. They can probably get out in front of their day, and they can maybe plan a little bit more, maybe prep a little bit more. And I hear so many people talking about anxiety, and it's like, well, anxiety and some other things that come along with it. It's a very serious condition. I don't want to undermine that. However, maybe if you were prepared for each day, and maybe if you plan things ahead a little bit, you'd have less anxiety. So maybe if you knew that you were flying somewhere on Friday and you packed Wednesday night, did most of your packing Wednesday night, finished up some of it on Thursday, Friday comes around, all you got to do is grab your bag and go, and you're all set. So these little things of being prepared, being ahead, maybe you wake up a little bit earlier, check your day, plan your schedule. I usually try to plan my day the night before, and that's why I'll sometimes text you guys. We'll try to figure out like, hey, should we, do this at this time? And then I can kind of look at the rest of the day, but I don't ever really start a day until it's written out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's written out and it's ready to go. And then the first thing I do every morning is kind of check that plan again and see like, okay, I'm not crazy meticulous about it. You guys see, like I'll end up late sometimes here and then. I'm not 100% on everything all the time, but I try to be.
Yeah.
I try to be the best I possibly can be. Try to be as prepared for these podcasts as much as I can, and as prepared for my workouts as much as I can.
Yeah, no, it's really easy. Like I used to fall into for me, it was the email trap because I'm stuck on my computer all day. So if I didn't plan out the stuff I needed to do or the client work I needed to, I would just be like keeping busy by checking emails. You know what I mean? I feel like that's.
Have you ever read a 4-Hour Work Week?
Yeah, I read that. I read that book a long time ago.
That's what he talks about. Is like you're people say that they're busy, and he's like, you're just making yourself busy.
Nah, yeah, exactly. You're making yourself busy, or you're acting like you're doing work. I'm really not doing shit. I'm acting like it. So that's why planning made it so big for me, and clearing out dumb subscriptions in the inbox just to make sure I could get better things done. But one thing that I found kind of interesting still is that now it seems that a lot of people now are taking sleep more seriously in terms of athletes, but it's still that thing that people are like, I don't get much sleep because of this or this. I can, but I'm just so busy. You know what I mean? I can only get 5 hours a night. And I believe that some people don't really know what it might feel like to actually, let's just say, operate at a level where you did get enough rest every single day. You're so used to operating at this lower level that it's become normal for you, and you really don't know what it's like to, I guess, get more rest and actually go through your day with more rest. I mean, you'll probably be able to get more work done because you're going to be able to concentrate on things you need to do. Your workouts will be better because you have more energy. It's just, it makes such a big difference. But it's the thing that we're willing to, just like staying hydrated and getting enough water, it's that thing that we're willing to say, I can't get enough sleep, I have too much work, I have to do this. But it's such a big deal.
It's huge. And like some things I've done I've tried a sleep apnea machine in the past, and that was pretty much that was kind of around the time where I just said, you know what, like I'm just going to lose weight. I couldn't make the sleep apnea machine work for me. It just didn't work for me. I tried different variations of it, and it just didn't work very well. Plus, it's just awkward. You got this like mask on, and you can't really turn, and it's just kind of weird. But then, I didn't stop. I was like, well, what else can I try? And when I went to one of my doctor friends, he was like, well, a sleep apnea machine is like that's just one way that you can help your sleep. He goes, another way is to keep your mouth shut. And I was like, I never heard of that before. And I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, they make like things you can put like on your head that keep your jaw shut. He goes, or you can tape your mouth. He goes, even if you just want to try it just to kind of see what it's like, he's like, just sleep with a pillow underneath your chin. He's like, that'll help keep your mouth shut. He's like, it's not guaranteed to keep your mouth shut. You still might open your mouth, but he goes, I would bet that you're probably opening your mouth. He's like, do you drool? I'm like, all the time. I was like I'm a damn dog, And so he suggested, he was one of the people that suggested the mouth tape. So I tried that. And then I always thought it was stupid that people wear those like eye masks. I'm like, it's dark enough in your room. But dude, like that makes a huge difference. I couldn't even believe and then if you want to take a nap or if you want to sleep on a plane, those eye masks are legit.
Oh yeah.
Those things work, man. It's pitch black. And if you put them on and you keep your eyes open for a little bit, your body starts kind of adjusting to the darkness of it, and you can kind of relax, put on some music, and you'll be out cold. So I got a whole setup now. I got the eye mask on, I got the mouth tape shut, and I have like a breathe easy strip or whatever on my nose. And so like I always think like if somebody was to come in and like rob this place, I would get my ass kicked because I can't see.
Yeah.
I can't yell.
Dude, I have a really well, it's not horrible, but it's pretty frightening. I did use one of those eye masks one night because I do have one, and I also had my mouth tape. But I don't know if it was like 4 a.m. I was having a nightmare, like a horrible nightmare.
Oh, no.
I think I was being stabbed or some shit, right? So I opened my eyes. I'm like, I tried to scream, and I opened my eyes, and I couldn't see shit. I was just like,
And you freaked out.
I freaked the fuck out because my mouth wouldn't move, and I was still half asleep. So I was like, what's going on here? Oh my God, I thought I was gonna die. And then I finally got everything off, and I was just fucked for the next few hours.
Jump out of the bed.
Yeah.
I decided not to use the eye thing from then on, but it is pretty good when if that doesn't happen, it's great. You do get good sleep.
Yeah, it definitely does add like a dynamic to living with others when you do the mouth tape, because it's like, well, it's bedtime and mouth tape is on. And it's like whatever question about something. It's like, So like I'll text Stephanie like while I'm standing next to her.
That's great.
But and it's also a bummer like if I forget to like I don't know just do something and it's like well my mouth tape's already on so I got to do it tomorrow.
Thirsty.
Yeah, that's another thing too. But luckily it does help with that though. Like I don't know how you guys feel, but like I don't wake up feeling like I was in a desert because I have the mouth tape on now.
Yeah, your mouth is nice and moist.
Hey now.
It is in the morning. Your mouth is moist in the morning. It's not dry
pretty
anymore.
excited about that.
I was saying, what is it about the word moist though?
I know, moisture.
Moist.
Yeah, it's a
Damp.
weird word.
Makes everything seem nasty. Moist cake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So anyway, shifting gears, I had to fatten up for this powerlifting meet.
Yay.
And so I came back from Italy, and I was a little bit heavy, but I mean, I gained like 4 or 5 pounds, but I was already going to do like a 20-pound weight cut. So any extra weight, kind of makes it just that much more difficult. I quickly lost that weight like within a day. It's just like bloat from excess amounts of wine and excess amounts of carbohydrates. And that flushed out of me pretty easy. On kind of a side note, while I was there, I did utilize intermittent fasting. And I did just because I knew I wanted to like go hog wild. I wanted to eat everything they have. I want to enjoy this experience with my family, and I want to enjoy the fresh pasta and all the different things that Italy has to offer. And I did. But the main thing I did is I did intermittent fasting, And then I also tried to order protein with every meal. So I had lamb, I had steak. So I basically ordered 2 dinners every single time I ate. But I was filling myself up with protein. And then when I came to like eating like lasagna or calzone or some pizza or something like that, I had a slice of pizza. I had, half a calzone. I had some lasagna, stuff like that. So it allowed me a lot of freedom with the food choices because I limited the time in which I ate, and I still had like gelato and everything else. It was awesome. But anyway, yeah, when I came back, I was like, it's going to be kind of stressful. The contest is in Reno at American Iron Gym, and I was like, it'll be kind of stressful to try to, I got to drive out there and then, try to lose the weight like in the hotel, and it'll just be kind of a pain in the ass. So I said, screw it, I'm just going to stay big. And so body weight was between like 235, 240. And I was like, I'll just try to keep my body weight closer to 240. The problem is the hotel didn't have a scale. I forgot to bring mine, which is a rookie mistake. And so I didn't really know how much I weighed. So like when I went to eat with Emilio, I was like, I just had I had like a bunch of burgers, just a bunch of hamburger meat basically. And he's like, "That's all you're gonna eat?" I was like, "I don't know what I weigh." I was like, I can't say that I'm not doing 220 and then be in the 275 class. So, and so, I did that, and then the next day weighed in, and I weighed in at 240, and then from that point, it was time to really blow it up, and I had a lot of salt, I had a lot of Gatorade, coconut water. Coconut water just has tons of potassium in it, so that's a great resource. And just ate a lot of food. I just kept packing it in. And the first thing we did is Emilio and I went to Black Bear Diner, which is a great place for gains, by the way. Had a big old orange juice to get that potassium in there, and then had steak, eggs, hash browns, and pancakes. And then when I came back to the meat, I was like, man, like that was a crazy meal. My veins are like going crazy and I'm sweating. I mean, I was like, it just really, really bloated me up really well. And then Zach is there. Zach's like, here's a breakfast burrito. He's like, you got to eat up. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I just ate, And of course, it's not a normal breakfast. It's from Zach.
It's massive.
Yeah. Zach's 300 plus pounds. And so I ate that, and then I think it couldn't have been more than like a half an hour later. Zach walks by again. I'm like, he just has food everywhere. He walks by again. He's like, we're going to In-N-Out. I was like, He goes, don't give me that. He's like, don't be a quitter. He's like, come on, we're going to In-N-Out. And I was like, all right. There's always room for In-N-Out burger, right?
Yeah, always.
So I threw down 2 doubles, but Zach was impressive. I think he threw down 3 like 4x4s.
Nice.
He was just running through it. And then when I came back from that, I still had another meal. The plan was to try to get in 3 meals, and I'm leaving some stuff out. I forgot it was a 24-hour weigh-in, so the night before, after I weighed in and stuff, I had like 2 meals in the hotel room and stuff too. So I was just really packing it in because I was like, it's so close with that 500 last time. I'm like, maybe just this. I'm not thinking in terms of energy because it doesn't take a lot of energy to do a powerlifting meet. And it doesn't take a lot of energy to do like a 1 rep max, and I was only benching. So energy wise, it's like we're talking about a drop in the bucket in terms of caloric requirement for the meet, right? Yeah. But I'm thinking just in terms of overall like body weight and body mass, it's like, who knows, by drinking this extra water, by eating some of this extra food, maybe my forearm is a 1/8 of an inch bigger, and maybe my belly is a little bigger, and these different things. And so I really wanted to try to fill myself up with as much food, as much water as possible. And even trying to get in enough water was kind of funny because when I sat on the bench in the warm-up room, I could hear my stomach like sloshing around. It was crazy. I was like, oh my God, I am bloated. But it made a huge difference. When I was in the warm-up room, I just was throwing the weight around. I was like, okay, today will be a good day.
Yeah.
And we're watching a little footage of the 500-pound bench here. I just, the other thing I did was, During training, I was trying some different things with my bench, and I was like, you know what? Like, I know how to fucking bench. You get in your own head,
Yep.
you get in your own head, and you have a tendency to talk yourself out of, like, you may have a certain style with jujitsu, and maybe it's not the same style as everybody else, but it works great for you, and you're able to get away with it, and you're able to do it. And so for me on the bench, I tend to drop the weights, like, it scares the spotter sometimes. They give me a handoff, and then I drop the weight, and they're like, oh shit. I think they think I got hurt or something. But I've always done that. I always bring the weight down 1,000,000 miles an hour, and then I just try to press with everything I have. I kind of sit up on the bench a little bit. I curl my upper body up, which you don't see. I mean, some people do it, but it kind of pulls your chest down a little bit. So some people are against it. They'll say you got to arch up, and you have to do this, and you have to do that. What you have to do is you have to do what's going to work well for you, what's going to serve you the best, and what's going to feel right to you. Because if you don't, then you're doing yourself a disservice. And so if I would have went into that meet and said, okay, well, I got to change things up. I missed it last time.
Yeah.
And everything has to change. My training has to change. The way I eat has to change. I mean, we have a tendency to do that. We rip ourselves apart, like in your last jiu-jitsu tournament. I know you wanted to be first. You come in second, and you come back, and you're like, everything's got to change. No. Not everything has to change. Probably a couple small tweaks. Maybe even taking some stuff out sometimes, right? Because like sometimes we do way too much.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can look back and say, well, shit, I was, spending way too much time doing that and that and that. And like something I mentioned to you is like maybe just play into your strength, like because you're strong, maybe even just play into that strength more and just when people go against you, they don't say anything else other than like, that guy is so strong. You can't do shit to him, And that's, when it comes to like Hoist Gracie or it comes to Bones Jones or it comes to some of these really exceptional, extraordinary athletes, Michael Jordan, obviously they have a lot of intangibles. So Jordan was good on offense and good on defense. And he was just a savage, right?
Yeah.
But you also knew that like the main thing that Michael Jordan would do is he would take command of the game. At the end of the game, he would be the guy with the ball, and you couldn't stop the damn guy, right?
You knew where it was going, and there's nothing you can do to stop it.
There's nothing you could do to stop it. And you think back to Ronda Rousey when she was real dominant. She did an armbar to everybody. To every person. And then, there was even videos of her going against guys that weighed 200 pounds, 220 pounds, and they couldn't do anything because she was so good at that kind of like one thing. And so I think you can do yourself a disservice if you start getting in your own head and start thinking, man, I got to really change everything. It's like, well, you probably need to make a small change here or there. You should listen to other people because a lot of times your friends are going to give you the criticism that you need to kind of get you to that next level. But at the same time, trust yourself and trust what you're currently doing because it got you to where you are now.
Yeah. Your performance at the meet, it was a really, really amazing comeback victory, I'll say. Do you want to get into what happened on your opener?
Yeah, so there's always all these kind of things going into the meet. Like, what am I going to open with, right? And something I learned from Westside Barbell and from Louis Simmons was, who gives a shit about your opener? That's not what you're there to do. And so the opener has always been a throwaway lift for me. And this one was a literal throwaway.
Yep.
My warm-ups have always been, my first attempt has always been my last warm-up, where, if you look at how I did that 473, it moves super fast, right? It's like, well, why even open with that? It didn't even really look all that challenging, right? But again, the point is you're getting on the platform. You have to prove to yourself and to the judges and to the crowd and to everybody there that you know how to go by the rules, you know how to do the lift properly. And it doesn't matter if you've been in, a few hundred meets like I've been, or if it's your first time. You still have to prove yourself. That's why those judges are there. It's not like I walk up and I automatically have 3 white lights because I've lifted for a long period of time. And so, I was fired up. I was excited. I was crushing weights in the warm-up room. Pausing the weight is something I don't ever train. I never even think about it because the way that I bench, I bring the weight down fast, and I kind of do a very minimal pause. anyway, I do rest the weight on my body and then I press the weight back up. So I don't really sit around thinking about this is something I need to work on. When I was younger, going into powerlifting meets, I didn't lift the same way. And so I always prepped the last probably about 3-4 weeks. I would always work on pausing the weight. And sometimes even sporadically in training, we would work on like long pauses and stuff, which can make you really strong. Chad Wesley Smith used it with a lot of success. Pausing the weights for 3, 4, 5 seconds can make you brutally strong on the bench press. Anyway, I was so fired up and excited for the first one, and just to kind of get that lift out of the way, I just went up to the platform, grabbed the bar, dropped the weight, and just did not even listen to the press command at all. I don't even think they had an opportunity to even say it.
No.
That's how fast I went. And then I was like, oh, shit. Like I missed the press call. I was like, I jacked that up.
Yeah, there was like an eerie silence throughout the whole gym where everyone's kind of looking around at each other like, did that just happen?
Yo, you walked off fast. You got off that bench.
I'm like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I was kind of pissed at myself. I was like, I was like, why did I do that?
Yeah. Was the jump to 590 planned, or was that because of the first?
Yeah, it was 490. Thank you for having me.
Sorry, my bad. It's still early for me.
Yep. So, yeah, well, so I got a text from our buddy Tom File, Crazy Tom, the night before, and Tom has been around. He's been around for a long time. He's been around powerlifting. He's been around bodybuilding. And he sends me a text, and he goes, he just says, take a tweener. And I was like, okay, Tom. And then he writes back, and he's like, here's your lifts. He's like 473, and then 490, and then 501. Like he like wrote it out.
Okay.
And I was actually like, in my head previously, I was kind of thinking 501 would be a second attempt, but I also knew that it made the most sense to judge how the first one felt. Well, if I was to judge how the first one felt, the first one really felt like nothing. So I would have went right to 501 had Tom not mentioned that. And also Zach mentioned it as well. Zach was like, yeah, he's like, you should probably have an in-between lift. I noticed that you get stronger as the workout goes on. He goes, and so he's like, you could do 5 attempts or 8 attempts, and you'd probably get stronger on every one. And I was like, okay. So I was kind of halfway considering it already. And when I messed it up, I mean, normally, under normal conditions, if it was a newer lifter and I was coaching them, I'd say, no, you're doing the same weight again, no matter how you miss it. You know, I really believe in making lifts in your meet. You know, you should, you know, with the exception of missing a technicality here and there, you should make a lot of your lifts in a powerlifting meet. And the only lifts you should maybe at the most have 3 hard lifts in a powerlifting meet. And I always think it's better on your drive home to be kicking yourself and saying like, man, I should have gone a little heavier. I think that's a good feeling to have. And you know for a fact there's reserve there, but you didn't risk injury. You still probably performed really well, but you probably feel amazing about how you did. It's not like you have a 700-pound deadlift and your third attempt is 600. You know, you're still gonna maybe do 690, right? And I think that we get lost in the shuffle when we're powerlifting. You know, for me, I was just benching, and so it's a little easier to like just want to roll the dice. But that 490 selection was perfect because 490 wasn't that easy for me. It gave me like a strain. It gave me a little struggle, and that will wake up your central nervous system. And there's a lot of science behind all this stuff. And there's a lot of data. If you look at some of the USAPL lifters, they've actually collected a lot of data on the lifters, and by precisely picking their attempts, they end up further ahead. So, for example, if I would have done 473 and tried to 501, there's a big chance that I would have missed it because my central nervous system might not have been prepared to lift that weight.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's ever tried this before, but if you stand in a doorway and you push your the back of your fist against the doorway for like 20 seconds or so, when you walk forward from the doorway, your arms will start to kind of float away from your body. And so there's stuff that's wired inside of our system, inside of our body, that when we get resistance, it causes a certain amount of responses in our body. And so, you can even kind of think of, if you do like an isometric contraction, there's a lot of research on this stuff. Do an isometric contraction, push on something as hard as you can, and you push and you push and you push for like 10 seconds in a rack, and then go and bench press. Technically, from a like research standpoint, they've shown you can push a little bit more weight. How practical is that? Does that make sense for 1 rep maxes in a meet? Like, people don't really do it, so it probably is not great, right?
Yeah.
However, there's also, like, if you ever taken a weight in the gym, like you work up on squats, you want to see how strong you are and see where you're at, and you squat 600, and you're like, oh, that felt really good. Well, what do you usually do after you squat 600? You normally do some pause squats or something like that. Go back down to 405, do a couple sets of 8. How easy does 405 feel? That's because you're nervous. Like, as you're warming up and you squat 405, it feels okay. It feels pretty good. But it certainly feels a lot better after you squatted 600 pounds. And a lot of people have used a lot of stuff like this. Ben Johnson was actually famous for it with Charlie Francis. Charlie Francis would have Ben Johnson squat before he sprinted, which is extremely unconventional. But Ben Johnson, I think, squatted like, I want to say like, I don't know, 575 or something like that, weighing 185.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen that guy's waist. It's like he doesn't have one. It's just unbelievable. But anyway, the point is like, by handling something kind of heavy or handling something in between, you'll end up further ahead. And Zach had an outstanding meet. Zach Jensen, who's been training here at Super Training for the last few months, he almost got a 2,000 pound total. His last attempt deadlift, I think, was 766. But in my experience, and with working for people, working with a lot of people for a long period of time, in this gym, we have not had a lot of natural deadlifters. We haven't really had guys that I know, all right, well, that guy's got an 800 pound pull in his back pocket, and so we can rely on that for the end of the meet. Most of the people are like in the 7s, and some people have creeped a little further past the 7s, but for the most part, so having already known that, right? Just knowing like that you're not going to blow up some crazy deadlift. Now, Zach is strong all around. He's got a strong squat, he's got a strong bench, he's got a strong deadlift.
Yeah.
But I think what you want to try to do, and I think most people are like this, I think most lifters aren't really just crazy gifted in the deadlift. If you're not gifted in the deadlift, then you want to chip away at your total with the other lifts. And so, in my opinion, like Zach could have went about 15 pounds lighter on his openers, and he could have ended up further ahead with a bigger total. And it's something that he and I talked about. We disagree in some spots, but we agreed, mainly on like, look, to get a 2,000 pound total, let's have the deadlift be just a cakewalk. And he agreed on that. So basically, like if he just would have opened up 10 to 15 pounds lighter on the squat, he may have ended up a little bit further ahead. He could have picked different attempt selections, and it's easy to look back, and when you compete, you're trying to go for it. He wanted 800 pound squat, and he wanted 500 pound bench. And sometimes when you go for those individual numbers, that's when you start to leave a lot on the table. So if you're listening to this and you're a lifter and you're trying to go for that 300 pound mark or that 400 pound mark, don't worry about it. Like, worry about that some other time. Get the 290 in, the 292. Look at the Russian lifters. They do it all the time.
Yeah.
Because they don't care, because they lift in kilos, and it doesn't mean the same thing. I think the only thing they care about is 400 kilos, which is a lot of weight.
Jeez.
And they care more like, when it comes to the, 100 kilos, 200 kilos, and so on. But anyway, when you have those opportunities, and especially when you're not sure, always choose the lower weight, and do the same thing in your training. Hey, Nsima, should I add a 25 or a 10? The answer is a 10, dude. Put the 10 on there. Do the 10 first. Let's see what that looks like. Let's make sure you don't get hurt. Let's make sure you do the lift cleanly. Let's make sure you do the lift the right way. And then you're going to earn the right to lift the 25. You got to win it. And I did that to Andrew to the point where I think I was driving him fucking crazy. I think I really was. At some point, he's like, Jesus Christ, can I just put 205 on there? No, you need to do 195 first.
Yeah, and it was so much to the point where it was the driving factor. Like after I kind of started getting the hang of things, somebody would ask me hey, what weight? Like if we were training with somebody, what weight do you want? I just know I have to earn that quarter. I can't just jump right to it.
Yeah.
You sure? Yeah, trust me, I know. And yeah, sure enough, Mark would always be like, nope, take the weight off. And it did kind of drive me nuts.
Zach hit 500 in the gym though, right?
He did.
He
Yeah,
did,
he hit a
yeah.
really good paused 500-pound bench in training, but sometimes it's hard to follow that squat up with a big lift.
Yeah.
When you lifted in your last meet, were you like fatigued at all from the other lifts? Do you think it impacted your ability to bench or deadlift?
No, it didn't. I stayed off my feet. I was really well hydrated, but those lifts can play a big role. But I honestly think it's because and it's not like you need to do this, but we've talked about this. I stay really calm before my lifts. And like generally,
That's a big factor.
For me it is, because I notice like I don't get really that like physically fatigued even after doing a really, really heavy lift, because I'm like I'm super chill before it. Right. I hit it, done, and I'm super chill afterwards. There's not a lot of like stimulation going on. So like
Wiped out.
I'm not wiped out at all. Yeah. So in the meet, like I did my squats and my bench, and it was a long meet. I didn't really feel that tired when I went towards my deadlift.
Yeah, guys, think about this. So it's time to squat, right? First of all, the night before and even the week before, like you have these moments where you get hit by like butterflies, right? And you're like, oh, I got to fucking squat this weekend. I got to do a meet this weekend. And the numbers are driving you. You already have, look, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this for. You already have tons of stress going on, right? So now it's game day, right? And you're in the warm-up room, and boom, there go the butterflies again, because you're kind of seeing everybody else starting to warm up. You're like, when do I warm up? When's our flight? And you're just like, am I going to be ready in time? And I got a lot of attempts to do back here, and I got to really be warmed up. And you're driving yourself insane. You're driving yourself crazy. And so now it's actually time to squat. You warmed up already. And now you're going to get yourself hyped up for a lift that you should be able to do for like 3 or 4 reps. So there really doesn't have to be much hype going into, especially the first one. But anyway, the point is you're going to get yourself all fired up for these 3 attempts. And then now it's time to like eat. It's time to chill. You're done with your squats. Then you get yourself all hyped up again. And you're probably taking in caffeine and doing a bunch of, pre-workout. And you're going to feel like shit. When that deadlift comes around, you are going to feel like crap. And so you want to try to figure out like what's something that's going to be maybe a little bit, just give you a little bit more natural rhythm. And if you do need to get fired up for lifts, think about what that looks like. How many times can you really get fired up? Can you really get up? Are you going to be able to do it 9 times in a meet? I doubt it.
Yeah.
Like we don't see people in here that are benching 315. We don't see them get them all fired up for 185.
Only Smokey.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah.
Smokey gets fired up for all his lifts, but it can leave you exhausted, right? It's just too much. It's too much up and down. I think another huge factor, and this is a reason why it's important to. It's going to sound ridiculous, but your lifts in a meet should be like a little bit light. If you can push it anywhere, it might be like on the bench, just because of the dynamics of the bench, and it shouldn't really interfere with the deadlift. But if you squat and you do your squats on broken, what's that going to mean for your deadlift? It's probably gonna allow you more room to deadlift more weight. If you get pitched forward and you use your lower back and you do a segmented broken squat, you're gonna really struggle to deadlift. Your opening attempt is probably gonna feel 20, 30 pounds heavier than normal. And now you're really behind it because your opener felt heavy, and it just sends a cascade of problems. Another suggestion I would make too is, as you're going through the meet, think of everything can be changed. So as you're going through the meet, pick the attempts based on previous attempts. Don't pick the attempts based on what you did in the gym. Don't pick your attempts based off of what you want to do. Base your attempts off of what you should do and what you can do. And then when it comes down to, when it comes down to deadlifting, I have, for so many of our lifters, I've taken their openers and lowered their deadlifts probably in almost every meet I've ever coached anybody who said, hey, just take my numbers and, just pick them for me. Some lifters like that. They don't like to know,
Yeah.
And so there's been many times where somebody has like a 633 opener, and I'll take it right down to 600. And the reason for that is I'm trying to piece together what they did mathematically with like a PR total. So if they did well in the squat, which they should have done well in the squat, and they should have done well in the bench, now we're just trying to piece together this third lift, the deadlift, into a PR total, because that's what matters in powerlifting meets is your total, not necessarily the individual lift. And so we're going to piece that together with, okay, let's knock out a PR total, which if you haven't competed in a while, should happen on your opening attempt deadlift, if not the second attempt. And then the third attempt deadlift, that is an opportunity for you to kind of roll the dice and just go for it. And if you do want to have that individual lift, but again, you got to earn it.
Yeah.
You got to really work for it.
It's super easy to get wrapped up in those like, this is going to be a PR squat or it's going to be a PR deadlift if I hit this. And I've seen a lot of lifters, they're like, no matter what, I want this to be my third attempt. Like, this is it. But that your total is the biggest deal. Like, first off, the platform's always there. So every single meet that you do, you're trying to get a bigger total, not just a bigger single lift, although that'd be great. You want a bigger total every single meet, because it doesn't matter if you got a bench PR or if you got a squat PR, right? But it was super hard, and then your deadlift ended up being absolute crap, so your total was a little bit less than it was before. That doesn't matter. It's hard. And then the amping up thing that you were talking about, if lifters could save that for their third attempt, like you mentioned, using it strategically for like just your third attempts or maybe your second or third attempts of your harder lifts, and if you know that your bench is typically a cakewalk for you, then just save it. Because like this past weekend, I was seeing lifters screaming on every attempt. And think about how tiring a scream is, right? Like screaming at full capacity, you're a little bit out of breath. You got to do that 9 times. That is insane. So
it's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask your body to do.
Yeah.
When did the slapping of the back start, or where did that come from? I've seen it a lot this weekend.
Yeah, like so that might be a byproduct of that gym. That gym, American Iron Gym, they have obviously you'll see it at other powerlifting gyms too, but I'm saying that American Iron Gym, Chad Ikes has been a big part of that. Chad Ikes was one of the strongest lifters in the world for a while. Squatted over 1,200 pounds back in the day. High sevens in the bench, high sevens in the deadlift, I think, as well. Very, very strong guy. Chad, one of the guys was telling me a story. The first time he came into the gym, Chad was there, and the guy was like, I couldn't even count how many plates were on the bar. The bar is just bending. He goes, I walk in, Chad's screaming. We got the music cranked, and he has the ammonia caps. He's got one in each nostril, just sitting there, like shoved up his nose.
Oh my God.
And he breaks both of them, and he like headbutts the bar and like does his squat, So Chad he used to be one of the more intense lifters. It was a really cool thing to like witness when he lifted. He would let out this huge, he's a big guy. At the time he was 450 or 440.
Ooh.
He would let out this huge like bellow that would just like rock the building, and so everyone was like hyped up to watch him lift. And I think that it's kind of a byproduct of that facility where they like to get after it. They like to be fired up. I've seen people, since I can remember, I've seen people, smack each other and hit each other at powerlifting meets. But the smacking on the back is a little bit of a newer thing that I'm seeing more and more lifters utilize. There's actually a little bit of research on some of this stuff, but like, I don't know if like whacking somebody on the back particularly fits into that. But they did a study on a UFC fighter where they like yelled at him. They played music, and then they talked about his kids. They like yelled shit about his kids. And when they yelled shit about his kids, he went fucking off. Like his kicks and punches and shit were like, they were like, holy, I can't remember the name of the guy that they did this on. I don't know if they did it on multiple people. In a lot of Russian lifters, if you watch Olympic lifting, you'll see the coach pulling on the lifter's ears very hard too, and you're like, what are they like? That would hurt. So I do think that some of these things that like elicit some pain, I do think they can wake up your body. I know Charles Poliquin was really big on some of these things where you can make someone stronger or more mobile by doing this weird shit. Like he stuck pen cap into the bed of my fingernail. And I laid on the ground and he pulled my ears down towards the ground for like 8 seconds. I'm trying to think what else he did. I can't remember anything else he did. I think it was just those two things. And you've seen me get underneath the squat bar before. I can never, pull my arms in close.
Yeah.
I could pull my arms in close because what he was doing was like overriding this motor pattern that's ingrained in my body to limit my mobility. So
You said he was pulling your earlobes, so you're lying flat on the ground and he was pulling your earlobes
he
down.
pulled my ears like this way towards the floor, very hard too. And so, but there's there's all kinds of stuff. You can look this stuff up. Yeah, here we go. You can look a lot of these things up, and this we're watching a YouTube clip of him pulling on my ears. But there's also something called the warrior point, which I believe is somewhere in your like chest.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to be able to like rub this shit and like make yourself stronger. I think that there's some weird stuff that people look how fat I am. There, it's awesome. There's some weird stuff that people just don't know enough about, and that's why they don't really practice it. With some of the stuff that Charles was doing, he's one of the few in the world that knows a lot of these different methods and techniques. He also said, look, this is not a permanent fix. He's like, you're not going to be able to do this tomorrow. He said, so what you would do is you would have a coach that's smart and he could, administer some of this stuff to you on a daily basis, and over a period of time, your performance and your mobility would increase.
I think also just it's people want to be and it's good to be science-based, but when they see things like this or hear things like this, they automatically call BS without even wanting to give it a shot. But the body is so damn complex that you don't know like what weird things can actually, or they sound weird, can actually end up making a pretty big difference in that period of time. Because like pulling down on your ears is odd, man. Like,
right.
But it worked, right?
And so see here, like my arms, like they're under the bar, but they're still out really wide.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to see I'm going to be able to kind of jam them in closer. And part of the reason why I can't really have the bar like low on my back is because of how wide my arms are. So my arms are way out. So if I had the bar low on my back, then it just feels like it's going to fall off my back. But yeah, over a period of him like messing with me for a minute here, he increases my range of motion. Oh, here he is with the pen cap. That hurt.
Yeah.
There's other methods too. Like a friend of mine, J.L. Holsworth. I can't remember the name of, and we could get one of these guys on the podcast. But I've heard really weird stuff at these seminars that goes on where they'll work on somebody, and like they're working on the person's like stomach, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're like digging in on something. I heard that like with some people, where they've had injuries before will like turn red, which is crazy. So like I've heard from a bunch of people that said they went to this seminar and just this huge streak of red came across the guy, and the guy was in some weird accident when he was a kid, and he like got that area all jacked up, and he had stitches and all this stuff. And just by them like working on like his psoas and doing all this other stuff, it caused this kind of reaction. So there's so many weird things to the body that are just kind of still unknown.
I'm actually curious about something. You know how we were talking about Reiki the other day?
Yeah.
Okay, what situation was it that you decided that I'm going to give this a shot? Because you mentioned that you did it once before too.
Mm-hmm.
So why?
Well, so that was that was just something like where I was at Kelly Starrett's gym, and like one of his people like knew how to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and she just wanted to like do it to me. So that's kind of how that happened. It wasn't something I was like really like seeking or whatever.
Okay.
And so that's part of the reason why it probably didn't work either. Like if I was seeking it out and I believed in it,
Mm-hmm.
then it would probably it'd probably work because you believe in it a little bit more.
I really wish we could people do placebo research and stuff like that, but I really wish like we could see more about how like this stuff could work. Because I mean, even though it sounds weird, there's something to it. If so many people are saying, oh, it made such a big difference, there is something to it. You can't discount it.
No, and I think that's, Andy Galpin, when having him on the podcast the other day, and he was telling you about the sauna, right? He was like, nah, but then he kind of finished by saying, look, if that's something that's you feel is really working,
Yeah.
then fuck it, keep going with it.
Yeah.
Do it for a while, and that makes sense to me. You don't want to deprive people of things that. First of all, it's a huge mistake to try to talk. It's a huge mistake to try to talk people out of like their irrational thought process. Like they might truly believe in something, and you can't really convince them. Like these flat Earth people and stuff. I mean, it's not your. It's you're not going to be able to convince them unless you were able to physically somehow show them that it's not flat. You'd have to really. And then they'd go, oh, okay. But most of the time, people are going to kind of like, they really believe that they have to have these amino acids when they work out. Otherwise, they're going to lose all their strength and not be big, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't really, I think it's, and that's the line he was talking about, like crossing was like, you got to kind of take what these fighters that he works with, take these old beliefs that they have, and then you got to kind of figure out, okay, which ones can I like change for them, and which ones do I have to kind of like leave because they got these weird rituals going into these fights and stuff.
Yeah, you got to mesh them with the new, because like you don't want to mess, especially with like a fighter. You can't mess with their mind, right? You can't say everything you've been doing up until now that's gotten you here is wrong. You can't do that, or you're gonna mess that fighter up. So it makes total sense.
My friend Daniel, what he'll do a lot, he's just really, really smart. But let's say that you just came to me and you have a terrible idea. What he'll say a lot of times is, you know what? You're not wrong, but what about this? So like he'll give you some validation towards what you said, but maybe it's like a little add-on, and it because if I just come in and be like, no, we're not doing that, and then I talk about what I want to do, well, now he's kind of pissed, and he just doesn't even want to be part of the rest of the conversation anymore, right? So it's just a kind of an interesting tactic. He'll say, you're not wrong. And the other one he says is, I like your line of thinking. And then he'll say his line of thinking.
I'm pretty sure I've heard that from him.
Oh, yeah.
Directly.
No, he does it all the time. He does it all the time. It means he thinks you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, now that you point it out. Speaking of rituals, do you have any rituals going into the meet that you kind of went back to? Other than just stuffing your face with food?
Yeah, not too many things, No, I just like to try to do everything the same. The same ritual I have here in the gym is the same that I have in the meet. I try not to really change anything. When you go to a contest of any kind, whether it's football or jiu-jitsu or powerlifting, doesn't matter what it is, you have to be very accepting of the fact that when you show up, it may look a lot different than what you anticipated, and the way that things are going to be might be quite different than what you're expecting. So I always recommend you should always check out the facility if you have the opportunity. If you you can look a lot of the stuff up on YouTube. So how great is that? That way you can get a little bit better visual, because like you might try to practice some visualization, which is great, but the visual might be wrong. And then when you get there, you're kind of like, oh, this is different. This feels different. This looks different. For example, when I benched, the bench was on this weird angle, which is just so different to me. I've never benched like that before. I mean, usually I kind of line up like, with the posts on the ceiling and stuff. I kind of look at some of that stuff, and I just kind of get myself together that way, I guess you'd say. And it was just a little different, but I saw that the day before, and I actually was like, okay, that's a little different. And I kind of looked up at the ceiling, and I was like, all right, well, the lines are going to run diagonal. Not a big deal. All right, cool. And it just kind of like sized it up, and I kind of envisioned, I was like, okay, the crowd's there, and I'm going to walk out from here. And it just gave me a little bit better perspective. But, getting the chalk, and I only usually do that for my biggest lift, smashing the chalk bowl. And just the way I lay down on the bench, it's all exactly the same. I always do like a little squat before I lay down to actually bench. I don't know why I do that, but I've been doing it forever. I line up on the bench the same way, grab the bar the same way. Everything's, those are all things that I can control. I can't control, whether the lights are really bright. I can't control, where the judges sit or the crowd, or can't control any of those things. But that's kind of why you have routines. That's kind of why you have rituals, and that's what will make you feel at home. And if you're, something that helped me when I used to box is, I remember, boxing once you learn how to box and you start going against like other opponents, well, shit, now like this is pretty scary. You're in like a fight, and I was doing it at a very young age, and the guys I was going against, some of them were professionals, and they were like, 25, 30 years old, stuff like that. These were grown ass men.
Mm.
And so I got scared, and I'd flinch, and I'd like do stuff that I was not doing in training. And then I remember I was like, in between rounds one time, and my trainer was just like, he goes, try it. I know it's hard to relax. He goes, but just think about when we're doing the glove work, and when we're doing drills, and when you're hitting the bag. He's like, you tear the bag apart. He's like, you got some powerful punches. He's like, but you're not going to be able to ever get these off if you're too tight, and if you're too like nervous about what the other guy's going to do. So pay attention to what the other guy's doing, but just do your thing. He's like, just picture the other guy being a heavy bag, and that made me relax a ton. I was able to get some shots in, and of course the guy killed me because he's a pro. We used to do these drills where the pros they were only allowed to jab, and I fought this one guy. His name's Jeremy Williams. He was a journeyman boxer, heavyweight boxer, and they were only allowed to jab, and so that's how they were getting their work in, and we were allowed to do whatever we wanted because we were just so green. We couldn't do anything anyway. I mean, it was hard to even hit these guys at all.
Yeah.
I started kind of moving out of the way of his jab, and I started getting some good shots in, and I was a strong kid. I was at that age, at 15 or so, I was 225, 230, something like that. I'm throwing some pretty good shots, and he's like, you sure you want to do that? And I was just like, I didn't know how to throw a punch any other way than I didn't know how to box really, so
Yeah.
I'm just throwing bombs when I can, and so I catch him with a couple other ones, and he just lights me up with straight right. Just, he's only supposed to throw jabs, right?
Mm.
But he's like, fuck this kid. Throws a straight right, and just boom, like it just drilled me in the nose. And my nose, I mean, I felt my nose even to this day when I blow my nose. It's like, it's a little like crooked in there. It's not broken, but it's, he definitely rattled my cage pretty good. And I was like, okay, I should back off a little bit.
Wow.
He just drilled me.
How many years ago was this?
Oh, I was like, I don't know. I was like 15 or so, 16.
He left a permanent.
Oh yeah. With one shot
mark on you
with one shot. I mean, this guy, he was a good boxer. I mean, he probably had like, shit, I don't know, 30 or 40 professional fights. I mean, he was on like ESPN and stuff. He was a good, he wasn't I don't think he ever won like a world title or anything, but he was a legitimate guy. And yeah, it's just, it's crazy to have, that's a professional, just touches you one time.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sure he just threw some bullshit punch too. You know what I mean? That's the funny part. Yeah. It's like he could have knocked my ass clear out of the ring probably.
Yeah, and somebody who like wasn't at the absolute top of the hill was just, but because they had so much experience, and it's like, okay, kid, and whack, and it's like, oh, that's what it's like to be a real fighter.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
could you imagine like Mike Tyson or something back in the day when he was throwing those
terrifying,
those bombs?
Yeah.
That is just scary to think
Anyway, it felt great to knock out that 500-pound bench, and we'll set up some new goals soon. I think I'll probably compete in September 7th.
That's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Happy early birthday.
Thank
Future
you.
birthday. Yeah.
How old are you going to be, 27?
27.
Damn, 27 spankings.
It's almost all over.
Yeah. 27. It's 3 away from 30. It's wild.
Man, you only have 3 years left to get your whole life together.
Pretty much. That's what.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah, you got to grow up.
Yeah.
Got to be an adult, actually.
Things are going to be changing.
But what was really cool is to have all you guys there. That was awesome. We got a bunch of you came out to the meet. My dad came out to the meet, and my brother came out to the meet, and it's like, it's kind of interesting because that's cool, but at the same time, I'm like, oh fuck, right? You know what I mean? Like it gives you that little extra. Now I don't want to make these guys drive all the way out here for nothing. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was great to have the team out there, and it's important. It's important to try to support people. It's not always easy. It's not always easy to make the time and put the effort into doing it, but man, are people are grateful for it. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine not going to the meet. Like it was already a done deal.
You were going even if you weren't invited.
Essentially, yeah, yeah. It was funny. Well, because Stephanie wanted to go too, but we had Jasmine, so I'm like, I was like, babe, like I know you want to go, but dude, a powerlifting meet's probably not the
Jasmine will be
best.
bored to death.
Yeah, I'm like, after the first, I don't know, 5 hours of the same thing happening over and over, she might get a little distracted.
She might want to hang herself.
Yeah, because we were gonna drive ourselves, but I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna hop in the car.
How cool was that gym?
Oh, it was sick.
Wasn't that cool?
Yeah,
It was massive.
And,
so much
I kept getting lost in it.
The woman that ran it too, I mean, she was so passionate about it. So the gym's $44 a month.
Wow,
It's crazy.
That's a steal.
for all that.
Yeah.
That's a steal.
Well, they
Yeah.
try to run it so that I don't think they make an actual profit from the gym, but I think they make profit from people training people there, the classes that they have. So the actual like gym membership model is not set up for them to really like kill it or whatever. And they just said that they started in the 80s and they kept the price pretty much the same from the beginning. They just never changed it. And
Wow.
they have CrossFit in there and powerlifting and bodybuilding. And they have like actual bodybuilders there. They have actual like world-class powerlifters. I mean, they got some strong people there.
Yeah.
They got 2 guys that squat over 900 pounds. They got 1 guy that pulls 8. That kid, Jeremy, he was the guy that I saw. He, his opening attempt deadlift at Record Breakers, his hand ripped open. And it was disgusting because I was on the platform and he just looked at his hand and he took this huge chunk and he just ripped it off and threw it on the ground.
Jeez.
It was so savage. I was like, that is disgusting and that's amazing at the same time.
Yeah, but that gym was crazy. I mean, every room you walked into was an entirely new gym.
It really
Yeah.
was.
You know, it's like, and it was all, I mean, technically under one roof, but you know, when I walked to the front, I'm like, hey, how do I get to the warm up room? Like, oh, just keep walking that way, just keep going. And I'd walk into a room like, no, this isn't it. And I'm like, oh wait, there's another room. Like, dude, no, this is still not it. And then I look up and I'm like, no, that's the platform over there. But then it ended up you were back there behind the platform.
Yeah.
But I just kept getting lost. I'm like, this is too much. But
they even had like an area for the event,
yeah,
which I think is kind of a little bit set up that way all the time. I don't know what else they do in there, but they had strongman stuff in there too.
yeah.
That was crazy. That was really cool.
It really you competing and you essentially kind of have like a rough start and then eventually hitting 501, but watching you see face some adversity with someone with so much experience, it made me love powerlifting even more.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that's some shit that I would do. Like I just forgot, sorry. But seeing you do it and then overcome it, I'm just like, man, this sport is amazing. Because like I said, it's something that I would probably end up doing at some point.
Powerlifting is way harder than it gets credit for.
Yeah.
And I think to dabble in some powerlifting here and there is like probably not that hard, but to like really be in it and to sit in it for a while and to do it for a while, it gets to be really difficult. It gets to be really hard to improve. We're always talking about like, how do you improve? And the truth is you can't always improve. Like that's just the facts. Like you can do everything right and you can really work really hard and it's just not always going to really work out. I heard somebody say this, and I think this is an amazing quote, but they said, a predictable past, or sorry, I messed it up. A predictable future, a totally predictable future is the past. And that's kind of like why things don't just happen for you because you lined them up that way. Because that's not life. Life is full of like surprises. They're full of like little mysteries. Like, how do I figure this out? How do I figure out how to be successful at this? How do I figure out getting another kilo or getting another pound on there? And it's difficult. It's freaking hard.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the biggest things that mentally makes is powerlifters a little bit stronger is the how often you're going to actually be on the platform. Like most powerlifters aren't going to be on the platform 8 times per year, right? Whereas basketball or jiu-jitsu, you can do a bunch of tournaments, but powerlifting, you maybe three meets throughout your year, and that's it. And the rest of the time, you're just training hard, preparing for those meets. It takes a lot of discipline to at least keep yourself disciplined to get on the platform and perform.
Yeah, it's almost like a fighter.
That's what Zach was saying. Zach was saying he probably won't compete, for about a year. It's like, man, that's so hard because then you're you'll kind of reload and put all your eggs in one basket again, and it's difficult. So if you did, I do advise for younger lifters. I do think they should try to compete a little bit more. It's hard to it's hard to kind of stay on that grind like that. But I would treat it like the way that bodybuilders treat their photo shoots, where they'll do the Olympia, and then they kind of go on tour from there. They do photo shoots, they do appearances because they're in their best shape, and they'll kind of around that competition is where they'll quote unquote make their money. And I think a lot of powerlifters could benefit from doing something similar. Maybe you do a bench only meet. Maybe you do a push pull meet just to stay active, just to feel the platform.
Yeah.
And then maybe you do a full power meet, because a full power meet, it really does take a lot out of you. It's not physically so much, but just physically and mentally, it just kind of costs you a lot. It does kind of carve out 12 weeks out of your life pretty much. And that's not always easy to fit in. But if you kind of randomly hit up a bench meet here or there, most of us can improve, on a bench or a deadlift. So kind of forcing yourself to do those things. You don't want to look foolish. You don't want to lift less than you've lifted before. So it just kind of puts your butt on the line. And so I see more and more people spreading out, their competitions. But I do think, getting up there a little bit more, and how it is with jiu-jitsu, right? Shit, you're really forced into this, these tournaments, right? And it's like, shit, man, well, I better get better.
Yeah.
Got to work your ass off for it.
Yeah. Same with bodybuilding though. If a bodybuilder really wants to improve, especially if they're not at the highest level, it's different from powerlifting. They can't compete 3 times a year or 4 times a year. You got to do your competition. Then you have to give yourself 3 or 4 months to get some body weight back so that you can actually start progressing for another 8 months. And then maybe in 12 months, you do another show. It takes discipline, especially trying to keep that drive all year long. It's hard for a lot of people to do.
Bodybuilding was brutal. It was pretty damn hard. Anyway, yeah, felt great to knock out that bench and get that kind of monkey off my back, and we'll see what kind of comes next. Right now, I'm kind of hopped back on the carnivore diet, shed a couple lbs, and then kind of just see where my weight ends up.
Carnivore week, right?
What's that?
Carnivore week, right?
Yeah, carnivore week. Yeah, I announced it, proclaimed it, World Carnivore Week. And getting ready for this meet, I used a vertical diet, so I was primarily eating meat and eggs, but I also mixed in some rice and mixed in some sweet potatoes. And I really like that diet a lot. And I think for a lot of people that are trying to get a better performance, and we've talked about this a lot on this podcast, people are always underselling the performance. They're always talking about their diet, and they're always talking about dieting. They're always talking about being smaller and being skinnier, and as Dan Green says, there's no skinny champions, right? You don't want to always be in this caloric restriction. It's not going to allow any real growth. And so I love what Stan's preaching. He's one of the few people out there that's preaching for people to eat more. And some of the vertical diet meals that he has are 1,100 calories, the ones that they ship out to you. It's who else would think to do that besides Reno?
It's because he's actually thinking about athletes' performance. He's not thinking about helping people. Well, he does want to help people diet and get in better shape, but he also wants to help them to expend more energy while they're in the gym so they're not feeling like crap.
Right.
Just talking about how nowadays I can feel when I need carbs. I more so don't crave carbs as I'm gonna have some carbs. It's more so as a fuel source. I feel okay, today I need to have some extra carbs. So it's good that he's doing that, because a lot of athletes don't, or a lot of athletes overeat, and then a lot of athletes don't eat enough in terms of carbs because they're doing maybe they're strict carnivore or keto or something. But it's good what he's doing with that.
Do you eat any junk nowadays?
Barely. It's been
some here or there.
Let me think. When was the last time? I'm not lying, Smokey. Smokey's over here telling me not to lie. Seriously, first off, I don't buy any stuff for the home in terms of junk. It's really been a long time, because I don't really crave that stuff now. If I do want it, It's not often.
But you used to eat it pretty often, right?
Yeah, because I could fit it in. I could make it fit, and it wouldn't affect the way my body looked, and it still wouldn't affect
like once a day.
Not once a day, but multiple times a week, like 4 or 5 times a week. In terms of like maybe an ice cream, or maybe I'd go out and just eat.
Now that we're talking about
meal. Yeah, right. But yeah, no, it's like I really don't. It doesn't make me feel good anymore. I guess when I think about it, I don't feel like I have to go get it, which is great. Like,
if you just like eat whatever, like not eat whatever, but like if you just eat a lot, do you like notice a difference the next day? Like you eat a bunch of carbs. You said sometimes you feel like having more carbs.
Yeah. So it'll usually be like maybe every 2 or 3 days, I'll be like, okay, I need to have maybe 200 or 300 grams extra carbs on this day. Typically nowadays, I'm having like anywhere between 50 to 100 grams on most days that I perform. But like then it's like every third day, it's like, okay, I need a bolus, I need extra, and I can feel that. Like that's the thing. I never really felt that awareness of, okay, I do actually, like, my body's like, get some carbs in, and I don't even know what that signal is. I just know like I need carbs today. It's just my body's telling me that. And I've never felt that signal before, and I think it's really good if you can get to that point where you can feel what you actually need to eat. You know, as long as you're getting consistent protein in and whatever fuel source you use, because I do eat a lot of fat, right? It'd be good to get yourself to a point where, okay, I know I need to eat now because I know I feel hungry, or I'm actually hungry, and I know that I need this type of food. I've never felt that before, and that's huge. Another weird thing is, like, I know it's starting to get sunny now, but it's like I went out the other day and it's like I need to be outside right now. It's like your body knows you need sun. I don't know. It's like I'm getting more sensitive to shit, but maybe it's just in here and it's not actually real. Who knows?
I think fasting, makes you, well, at least for me, it's helped me to crave like nutrient dense foods. It's helped me crave like more, or I guess healthier foods basically. And I know like in the past I've had, chicken breast or steak or something. I had stuff go bad in the fridge because, maybe I was snacking, or, maybe I had, I don't know, like a bowl of cereal or something like that. And it's like, that ends up being so negative in so many different ways. Obviously it's positive because it tastes really good, but it ends up being a kind of a double negative because you're having something that you shouldn't be having that's causing a response that you don't really want it to have. It's pulling you away from your goal. It's also taking up real estate in your stomach for otherwise more nutrient dense foods that would get you closer to your goal. So you're really setting yourself backwards by doing this stuff here and there,
I think it makes a lot of sense from like an adaptation standpoint, though, at least for us, because if you're fasting for a period of time and on most days you have this small window of time which you're going to eat, right? It kind of makes sense that you're going to start to crave more nutrient dense foods because you're like, your body's like, okay, you have 5 hours or 4 hours to eat and you need to get a lot in. So you're generally going to go towards foods that your body typically gets a lot from, rather than going to like a milkshake or going somewhere and just getting something that will do you absolutely no good. Because I feel the same way. Like I crave certain foods that are super dense. I don't crave anything that's like, just a snack anymore.
In the war on carbs front, carbs, they have loaded up something new. It's cinnamon toast crunch churros.
Wow.
They are insane. And I couldn't wait to tell you guys about them.
Have you had them?
Yeah. We got some for Jasmine.
It's cereal?
And it's cereal. So it's basically cinnamon toast crunch, but really thick chunks like that.
Oh, that looks beautiful.
Thankfully, we didn't have any almond milk, or else I probably would have ate the whole box. But like I poured some in a cup, and I'm like, I got to give these a go. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to lose this war on carbs today. It's so good.
See.
But exactly what Mark was saying, though, like I was filling my body with something that was just taking 2 steps back when I should have been filling it with something better.
Can I ask you a favor?
Yeah.
Do you still have those at home?
I mean, as of right now, I think there might be some left.
Okay, well, if you do buy a little bit more, bring me a little bag, because I don't trust myself to go to the store and buy a box and to just
no.
I feel like I'm gonna
great.
I'm gonna eat that whole box.
They're
bro.
so good.
Yeah, bring me a Ziploc bag of those.
Man, if they make it here, I might bring you some and I might eat them on the way here.
From a powerlifting perspective, it always makes sense to eat, as healthy as possible, right? But there's something about the way that I ate for this competition after I weighed in, it was, I didn't go like off the rails and eat like crazy amounts of junk, but I do think that there's something with like processed foods or something with like some of these foods you get at like a diner that they're so loaded with like salt. There's something that it's hard for me to put into words, and I've been trying to explain it and describe it for quite some time. But there's something there that makes you feel really freaking strong. And I don't know if it's just like an abundance of calories, or if it's the salt, or if there's something like inherently good about some foods that are processed, like cereal and some of these things. I mean, we have a tendency to just think, oh, that's bad. That's it. That's all. That's all we know about it is it's bad. But maybe there's some advantages to it. And I have not been able to really put my finger on it, but I do know there's some people that say there's like this theory, or it's not even really a theory. It's just I don't even know what you call it, but there's Hormesis, which is like this idea of like a little poison does you a little good. There's like a little bit of something bad is good, and that's why every human being is dosed with a little. We all have things in it, that we do and that we say, and the ways that we act that are just a little bit off. Not everything's not always going to be clean. Not everything's not always going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something to it when it comes to slamming down some like Doritos or something like that before a powerlifting meet.
It's just it's easy to take down. You barely even need to there's no fiber. Your body doesn't have to work to digest it. Yeah. It just goes where it needs to go. Just like before your show, or before your bodybuilding show, did he have you like load up on carbs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think before my show, I had to eat like 800 grams of carbs the day before, like 800 to 850 grams of carbs. And I was just eating like cereal and just easy to digest carbohydrates and just filling up. You know what I mean? So
it made you jacked.
It made me, yeah, exactly. It made me super jacked. But it makes total sense. But that's the thing. You don't do that every day.
You had me have a cheeseburger and fries too, like between the shows, like the morning and night show or whatever.
Yeah. Keep you full. Yeah.
It just made the veins go nuts too. Anyway, it was a great meet. Great to have you guys there. Appreciate the extra support. Had a lot of fun. Met a lot of great people at American Iron Gym in Reno, Nevada. If you're ever near the area, you got to check that gym out. That place is awesome. It's got everything. Anyway, strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.